The transport ship shuddered as it docked with the Galactic Council station. Lieutenant Jinho Park stood near the viewport, watching the massive structure grow larger. It looked like a floating city made of silver and light. Ships from dozens of alien species moved around it like insects around a hive. Some had wings that glowed. Others were just spheres of metal that seemed to float without engines. Jinho had never seen anything like it. He touched the sidearm at his hip, checking it for the 10th time that hour. The weapon felt small and simple compared to everything outside the window. Back on Earth, this pistol was cutting-edge military technology. Here, surrounded by civilizations that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years, it felt like a toy. "Stop fidgeting, Lieutenant." Commander Taiho Kim walked up beside him. The older man looked calm, but Jinho knew him well enough to see the tension in his shoulders. "We're representing Earth today. That means confidence, even if we don't feel it." Jinho nodded and dropped his hand from the weapon. "Yes, sir. It's just, look at them. We're so far behind. Maybe." Taiho smiled slightly. "Or maybe we just do things differently. Remember your training, Park. Different doesn't mean worse." The docking clamps locked into place with a sound that vibrated through the hull. Ambassador Minji Choi appeared in the doorway, flanked by 2 more Marines. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but she carried herself like someone much larger. Her dark suit was perfectly pressed, and her expression showed no fear at all. "Gentlemen," she said, "today changes everything. Humanity has been watching the stars for centuries. Now the stars are finally watching us back. Let's make sure they like what they see." The airlock opened. The air that rushed in smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Jinho followed Commander Taiho through the corridor, his boots clicking on floors that seemed to shift color with each step. The walls were transparent in places, showing the void of space beyond. It made his stomach twist. They entered a massive hall. Jinho stopped walking, unable to help himself. The ceiling stretched up so high he couldn't see the top. Hundreds of beings moved through the space. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others had 6 legs or 8 or floated without legs at all. One creature looked like a cloud of purple gas held together by a shimmering field. Another had skin that looked like living stone. A figure approached them. It walked on 6 legs and stood nearly 7 feet tall. Its body was covered in dark blue armor that looked like it had grown there naturally. 4 arms extended from its torso, each ending in 3 fingers tipped with claws that could probably cut through steel. Its head was triangular, with 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern. Ambassador Choi. The creature's voice came from a device on its chest, translating whatever sounds it actually made into perfect English. "I am Velcro's Chief of Station Security. Welcome to the Council." Minji bowed slightly. "Thank you, Chief Velcros. We're honored to be here. Before we proceed, I must conduct a security inspection." Velcros gestured with 2 of his arms. "Standard protocol for all new species. Your cooperation is required." The inspection was humiliating. Velcros examined every piece of equipment the humans carried. He seemed particularly interested in their weapons. He picked up Jinho's sidearm with one clawed hand, turning it over like it was a curious artifact from a primitive culture. "This is your primary combat weapon?" Velcros asked. "One of them, yes," Commander Taiho answered. Velcros made a sound that the translator rendered as a sigh. He set the weapon down and turned his 4 eyes on Jinho. The alien studied him from head to toe, his gaze lingering on Jinho's hands. "You wear no combat augmentation," Velcros said. It wasn't a question. Jinho glanced at Commander Taiho, who nodded permission to speak. "No, sir. We don't use biological augmentation in Earth's military. No retractable blades, no venom glands, no reinforced bone structure." "No, sir." Velcros went very still. His 4 eyes stared at Jinho for a long moment. Then he turned to Ambassador Choi. "Your species sends warriors without proper appendages. These..." He gestured at Jinho's hands with one claw. "These soft manipulators are your only natural weapons." The hall had gone quiet. Other aliens had stopped to watch. Jinho felt dozens of eyes on him, some familiar-looking, others completely alien. He kept his face neutral, but inside his heart was pounding. Ambassador Choi stepped forward. Her voice was calm and professional. "Humans have developed different combat methods than the rest of the Council species. Our effectiveness doesn't rely on biological weapons. Different methods." Velcros repeated the words slowly. "Ambassador, I mean no disrespect to your species, but you must understand the reality of galactic conflicts. Warfare here is biological. Species survive because they evolved to fight, or because they augmented themselves to compete. Your people have neither advantage. He held up one of his arms, flexing the clawed fingers. These can cut through most metals. My carapace can withstand small arms fire. My people evolved as hunters on a world where everything was trying to kill everything else. We earned our place in the galaxy through strength. Velcros pointed at Jinho with another arm. But humans? You have no claws, no armor, no venom. You are soft and weak by galactic standards. How do you expect to defend yourselves? How do you expect to defend your allies when conflict comes? The silence that followed was crushing. Jinho saw pity in some of the alien faces around them. Others showed contempt. A few looked away as if embarrassed to witness humanity's inadequacy. Commander Tejo moved beside Ambassador Choi. His voice was steady, showing none of the anger Jinho knew he must be feeling. Chief Velcros, we appreciate your concern. However, Earth's military has proven effective in our own conflicts. We would be happy to demonstrate our capabilities if there are any doubts. Velcros tilted his head, studying Tejo. A demonstration? You would allow your warriors to enter combat training against Council species? If it would help the Council understand human capabilities, then yes. Something like amusement flickered across Velcros's face. Very well, Commander. I will arrange for your people to use our training facility. It will be educational. The way he said the last word made it clear who he expected would be learning the lesson. As Velcros walked away to make arrangements, Jinho leaned close to Commander Tejo. Sir, what did we just agree to? Tejo's expression was grim. We agreed to prove ourselves, Lieutenant. Because if we don't, humanity's membership in this council will be over before it begins. They'll see us as liabilities, weak, unable to contribute to galactic security. And if we fail the demonstration, then we'll confirm every doubt they have about us. Tejo put a hand on Jinho's shoulder. So we won't fail. Get ready, Park. You're about to show these aliens what human hands are really designed for. The quarters they assigned to the human delegation were large and comfortable, but Jinho barely noticed. He sat at a desk reviewing files on a portable terminal. His hand kept moving to his chin, a habit when he was thinking hard. Around him, the other Marines were quiet. They all knew what was coming. The door opened. Yunahan walked in, carrying a data pad and looking excited despite the situation. She was young for a xenobiologist, only 29, but she had studied alien life forms for 6 years. Her enthusiasm for meeting actual aliens had barely dimmed since they arrived. I've been doing research, she announced. You all need to see this. She activated a hologram projector. Images filled the air above the desk. Alien species appeared one after another, rotating slowly so they could see every detail. This is what we're dealing with, Yuna said. Every single species in the Galactic Council has natural weapons. Every single one. The Threxians, like Velcros, have those claws in their armored bodies. The Karathi have 4 arms with bone blades growing from them, plus a tail with venom. The Velkans have crushing jaws that can bite through steel and acid they can spit. She moved to the next image. The Skareen have electrical organs that can stun prey from 10 feet away. The Gormath have spines all over their bodies, each one poisonous. The Tilkari can change their skin to be as hard as stone when they fight. So everyone here is a natural weapon, Commander Tejo said quietly. And we're not. Worse than that, sir. Yuna pulled up another file. I've been reading their military history. To the Council, warfare is biological. It's about what you were born with or what you grafted onto your body. They don't have martial arts like we do. They don't train in hand-to-hand combat the way humans do. Why would they? Jinho said. If you have claws like knives growing from your hands, why would you learn to punch? Exactly, Yuna nodded. Their entire military doctrine is based on biological advantages. When they fight, they use what they were born with. They've never needed to develop the kind of techniques we have. Ambassador Choi appeared in the doorway. She had been meeting with council representatives for hours, and she looked tired. It's worse than we thought, she said. I just had a very polite conversation with Councillor Thex. He's one of the more friendly ones. Even he thinks we're at a severe disadvantage. She sat down heavily. They're offering to help us. Several species have volunteered to share their bio-augmentation technology. They want to give our soldiers retractable claws, or reinforced skeletons, or venom glands. They think they're being generous. They think we need fixing, Tejo said. Yes, and if we refuse, they'll think we're being foolish, prideful. They'll see us as a species that's too stubborn to accept help, which will damage our diplomatic standing even more. Minji rubbed her temples. This demonstration Velcros arranged might be our only chance to show them we don't need their augmentations. Jinho stood up. Then let's make sure we're ready. What exactly did they arrange? A combat exhibition in their training arena, Minji answered. Tomorrow. One of our people against one of theirs. Hand-to-hand only, no weapons. They're calling it a friendly demonstration. But we all know what it really is. It's a test. Who's our fighter? One of the other Marines asked. Everyone looked at Jinho. He had the most hand-to-hand combat experience in the group. 3 years fighting in the unification wars on Earth. Black belts in 3 different martial arts. He had trained other Marines in close-quarters combat for the past 2 years. Me, Jinho said. It should be me, Commander Taiho frowned. Park, you're young. Maybe we should send someone with more experience. With respect, sir, there's nobody with more relevant experience. I've trained specifically for this kind of combat. Fighting opponents who are bigger, stronger, or armed when I'm not. That's what this will be, Yuna spoke up. He's right. If Jinho can't do this, none of us can. But Lieutenant, you need to understand what you're facing. Their warrior will have natural weapons that can kill you, claws that can cut through flesh like paper, maybe venom that can paralyze you in seconds. You'll be fighting something that evolved to be a predator. I understand, Jinho said. But they need to understand something too. Humans might not have claws or venom, but we have something they don't. We have 5,000 years of martial arts. We have techniques developed specifically to fight enemies who are stronger and better armed than we are. He held up his hands, looking at them. These aren't weak because they don't have claws. They're strong because they're adaptable. I can make a fist or an open palm. I can grab or strike or block or redirect. My fingers can find pressure points and joint locks. These hands have more uses than any claw ever could. Ambassador Choi studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, Lieutenant. You'll represent humanity tomorrow, but understand what's at stake. This isn't just about winning a fight. This is about proving to the entire Galactic Council that humans belong here, that we can defend ourselves and our allies without biological weapons. I understand, Ambassador. Good. Yuna, I need you to get Lieutenant Park all the biological data you can on whatever species he'll be fighting. If they're following standard practice, it will probably be a Karathi warrior. Find out everything about their anatomy. Weak points, nerve clusters, joint structure, everything. Already on it, Yuna said, her fingers flying over her datapad. That night, Jinho couldn't sleep. He went to the station's observation deck, a huge room with windows that looked out into space. The stars looked different here so far from Earth. He wondered if his family was looking up at those same stars or if the distance was too great. Can't sleep either? He turned. A tall alien stood nearby. It had 2 legs and 2 arms like a human, but its skin was deep green and covered in small scales. Its eyes were large and golden. This was Counselor Thex, the Velkan diplomat Ambassador Choi had mentioned. I'm sorry, Counselor, Jinho said. I didn't mean to intrude. You're not intruding. This deck is open to all. Thex moved to stand beside him, looking out at the stars. I hear you're the one who will fight tomorrow. Yes, sir. You seem calm. I'm terrified, actually. Thex made a sound that might have been a laugh. At least you're honest. Most warriors would lie about their fear. He paused. I wanted to warn you. Velcros has chosen Drakesh as your opponent. He's a Karathi, one of their best warriors. He's fought in 12 planetary conflicts. He's never been defeated in single combat. Jinho felt his stomach tighten, but he kept his voice steady. Thank you for telling me. You should also know that Velcros expects you to lose. He arranged this demonstration to prove that humans need augmentation. He wants to show the Council that your species is too weak to survive without help. Then I'll have to prove him wrong. Thex turned to look at him directly. I hope you do, Lieutenant. I truly do. Your species interests me. You've reached the stars without the biological advantages the rest of us have. That suggests a kind of strength we might not understand yet. He started to walk away, then stopped. Humans say good luck before challenges, yes? Yes, sir. Then good luck, Lieutenant Jinho Park. Show us what those hands of yours can do. The training arena was enormous. Jinho stood at the entrance, looking across a space that could have held 3 football fields. The floor was made of something that looked like gray sand but felt solid under his boots. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows. Lights floated in the air without any visible support. casting everything in a harsh white glow. Hundreds of aliens filled the viewing platforms that ringed the arena. Word had spread fast. Everyone wanted to see the human who thought he could fight without claws or fangs or venom. Their voices created a buzz that echoed off the walls. Some were excited. Others sounded dismissive. None of them expected the human to win. Jinho tried to ignore them. He focused on his breathing, keeping it slow and steady. In through the nose, out through the mouth. He had done this 1,000 times before fights. It helped keep his heart rate down, his mind clear. You don't have to do this. Commander Taiho stood beside him, his voice low. I can go in your place. It's not too late to change. With respect, sir, yes it is. Everyone's watching. If I back out now, it's the same as losing. Worse, actually. It makes us look like cowards. Taiho put a hand on his shoulder. Then remember your training. You've studied the Karathi anatomy all night. You know where to strike. You know their weak points. I know, Jinho said. I'm ready. He wasn't ready. Not really. How could anyone be ready to fight a creature that had trained for 60 years? But he couldn't show doubt. Not now. Yuna ran up, slightly out of breath. She pressed a small device into his hand. It's an injector. Emergency medical treatment. If you get hit with venom, press it against your thigh and push the button. It won't cure the venom, but it will buy you time for the medical team to reach you. Jinho looked at the device, then back at her. If I have to use this, I've already lost. Take it anyway, please. Her eyes were worried. He nodded and attached it to his belt. Then he started removing his gear. The tactical vest came off first, then his sidearm and holster, his combat knife, the protective plates from his forearms, everything. What are you doing? Taiho asked, alarmed. Proving a point. Jinho stripped down to his standard fatigues and boots. They think we need weapons because we're weak. I need to show them that's not true. That a human is dangerous even with nothing but bare hands. That's crazy, Yuna whispered. Maybe. But it's also the only way this works. He handed his gear to Commander Taiho. If I go in there looking protected, they'll say I won because of equipment. This way, when I win, there's no question about why. You mean if you win? Taiho corrected. No, sir. When? A sound like a gong rang through the arena. The crowd noise dropped to silence. Velcross's voice boomed from speakers somewhere above. The demonstration will now begin. Representing humanity, Lieutenant Jinho Park. Representing the Karathi people, Master Drakesh of the Blood Moon clan. A door on the opposite side of the arena opened. Jinho's opponent entered, and every muscle in Jinho's body tensed. Drakesh was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with a body that looked like it was made of muscle and armor plating. His skin was deep red with black markings that might have been tattoos or natural patterns. 4 arms extended from his torso, each one thick with muscle. The upper arms ended in 3-fingered hands tipped with bone blades that curved like scimitars. The lower arms were similar but slightly smaller. A thick tail swayed behind him, easily 6 feet long. At the tip was a stinger the size of a knife blade. It dripped with something clear that hissed when it hit the ground. Venom. Paralytic venom that could drop a full-grown human in seconds. The Karathi warrior walked to the center of the arena with confident, measured steps. His 4 eyes fixed on Jinho. They were yellow with vertical pupils like a cat. When Drakesh saw that Jinho wore no armor and carried no weapons, he stopped walking. You enter the arena unarmored? Drakesh's voice was deep and rough, like gravel grinding together. This is either very brave or very foolish. Jinho walked forward to meet him, trying not to show how intimidated he felt. Up close, Drakesh was even bigger. Those bone blades looked sharp enough to cut through steel. I don't need armor. We shall see. Drakesh flexed all 4 arms, the blades catching the light. Know that I will not kill you, human. This is meant to be educational, not fatal. I will simply incapacitate you quickly so you do not suffer unnecessarily. That's kind of you, Jinho said. But I plan to stay conscious. Drakesh made a sound that might have been amusement. Your confidence is admirable. But confidence does not stop blades. Velcross's voice echoed again. Combatants, take your positions. The arena gravity will adjust to Earth standard for fairness. Combat continues until one party submits, loses consciousness, or is unable to continue. Medical teams are standing by. Jinho felt the gravity shift. It became slightly lighter, easier to move in. A small advantage. He would need every advantage he could get. He dropped into a fighting stance. Feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, weight balanced on the balls of his feet. hands up but relaxed, ready to strike or deflect. It was basic, but basics worked. Drakesh adopted a stance of his own. All four arms spread wide, blades angled forward. His tail coiled like a snake ready to strike. Every part of him was a weapon. The arena fell completely silent. Hundreds of aliens watched, waiting to see the inevitable. The soft human would fall quickly to the Karathi warrior. It was obvious, predictable. Velcross's voice cut through the silence one last time. Begin, Drakesh charged immediately. For something so large, he moved with shocking speed. All four arms came forward, blades aimed at Jinho's center mass. It was a straightforward attack, relying on strength and reach. Jinho didn't retreat. He stepped forward inside the arc of the attack. His instructors had drilled this into him 1,000 times. The most dangerous place to be against a blade is at its maximum reach. The safest place is inside that reach where the weapon can't get proper leverage. The bone blades whistled past him on both sides, missing by inches. Jinho's left hand shot out, not to block but to guide. He caught Drakesh's upper right arm just behind the blade, using the Karathi's own momentum to redirect the strike past his body. At the same time, his right fist drove forward into the nerve cluster just below Drakesh's lower left shoulder joint. Yuna's research had identified this as a weak point. The strike landed perfectly. Drakesh's lower left arm went limp, the blade dropping toward the ground. The Karathi's eyes widened in surprise. He tried to bring his tail around for a strike, but Jinho had already moved. He was too close for the tail to reach him, using Drakesh's own body as a shield. The crowd erupted in confused noise. This wasn't what they expected to see. The human should have been bleeding by now. Instead, he was inside Drakesh's guard, and one of the Karathi's forearms was disabled. Drakesh snarled and tried to grapple with his 3 remaining arms. It should have been an easy win. 3 arms against 2, superior strength, natural weapons. But somehow it didn't work out that way. And watching from the viewing platform, Counselor Thex leaned forward with growing interest. This human was doing something he had never seen before. Something that might change everything. Drakesh tried to grab Jinho with his upper arms while the lower right arm swung its blade in a tight arc. It was a good combination attack. It should have worked. Against most opponents, it would have worked. But Jinho wasn't most opponents. He dropped his weight suddenly, letting gravity do the work. The blade passed over his head close enough that he felt the air move. At the same time, he drove his shoulder into Drakesh's midsection, right where the lower ribs met. The impact forced air from the Karathi's breathing spiracles with a sharp hiss. Drakesh stumbled backward, trying to regain balance. Jinho pressed the advantage. He stepped on the inside of Drakesh's left leg and pushed, disrupting the warrior's base. With 4 legs, the Karathi should have been more stable. But Jinho had spent the night studying how they moved. He knew where to push. Drakesh went down on one knee. His tail lashed out in desperation, the venomous stinger aimed straight at Jinho's chest. This was the killing blow, the one that ended fights. The Karathi had never missed with this strike. Jinho's hand snapped out and caught the tail just behind the stinger. His fingers dug into a pressure point Yuna had identified. The tail went rigid, muscles locked. Drakesh tried to pull it back, but Jinho held on. Not with strength, but with technique. His grip positioned perfectly to control the appendage. The arena was in chaos now. Aliens were on their feet, shouting in dozens of languages. The translators couldn't keep up. Some sounded excited, others confused. Many were angry, as if what they were seeing was somehow wrong. Drakesh roared and surged upward, using all his strength to break free. Jinho released the tail and rolled backward, creating distance. Both fighters stood facing each other again. But everything had changed. Drakesh's lower left arm still hung useless. His breathing was labored from the hit to his ribs. His tail twitched erratically where Jinho had struck the nerve cluster, and for the first time in 60 years of combat, there was uncertainty in his eyes. How? Drakesh growled. You have no weapons, no armor. You should not be able to do this. Jinho was breathing hard but steady. Your blades are weapons, but they're also a weakness. They tell me where you'll strike. They limit your options. My hands can be anything I need them to be. Words, Drakesh spat. Words mean nothing in combat. Then let me show you. This time Jinho moved first. He closed the distance fast, faster than Drakesh expected. The Karathi swung with his upper right arm, the blade cutting down in a powerful arc. Jinho caught the arm at the wrist with one hand and the elbow with the other. Then he twisted, using leverage instead of strength. The joint lock was perfect. Drakesh's own body weight worked against him. The Karathi tried to pull free, but that only made the lock tighter. His blade pointed uselessly at the ground. With his other arm, Drakesh tried to strike at Jinho's exposed side, but Jinho shifted his body, using the captured arm as a barrier. The blade hit the limb lock and stopped, unable to reach its target. Drakesh was fighting himself now, his own arms getting in the way. Jinho released the lock and immediately transitioned into a different technique. His right arm snaked around Drakesh's neck, applying a choke that cut off blood flow to the brain. His left hand controlled the Karathi's lower right arm, preventing it from interfering. His legs wrapped around Drakesh's torso for stability. It was a position humans called the rear naked choke. Drakesh had never experienced anything like it. He had been grappled before, but never like this. Never with such precision. The human's body position made it impossible to use the blades effectively. They couldn't reach backward, and the tail couldn't bend far enough to strike. Drakesh tried to throw Jinho off. He spun and slammed backward into the ground, hoping to crush the human beneath his weight. They hit hard, raising dust from the arena floor. Jinho grunted in pain but held on. The choke remained locked in place. On the viewing platform, Counselor Thex was recording everything on his data pad. His hands moved frantically, capturing every detail. Around him, other aliens watched in stunned silence. They were witnessing something that challenged everything they understood about combat. Velcro stood frozen, his four eyes wide. This wasn't possible. The human had no weapons, no armor, no augmentation. He was soft and weak by galactic standards. He should have lost in the first 10 seconds, but instead, he was winning. Systematically, methodically, like he had trained for exactly this scenario. In the arena, Drakesh's movements were getting weaker. The choke was working. His vision was starting to blur. He tried one last time to break free, using all his remaining strength. But strength alone wasn't enough, not against technique, not against someone who understood leverage and body mechanics better than any warrior he had ever faced. Drakesh's hand slapped the ground 3 times, the universal signal of submission. The fight was over. Jinho released immediately and rolled away, putting distance between them. He stood up slowly, every muscle in his body aching. His back hurt from being slammed into the ground. His arms burned from maintaining the holds, but he was standing. And Drakesh was on his knees, gasping for air. The arena was completely silent. Not a single voice. Not a single movement. Hundreds of aliens stared at what had just happened, unable to process it. Then the noise started. It began as a murmur and built into a roar. Some were cheering. Others were arguing loudly with their neighbors. A few were demanding to review the recordings, certain there must have been some trick or deception. Jinho walked over to Drakesh and extended his hand. The Karathi looked at it confused. Then understanding dawned. It was a gesture of respect, of assistance. Drakesh took the hand, and Jinho helped pull the massive warrior to his feet. "You fought well," Jinho said. "Your strength is impressive." Drakesh stared at him for a long moment. Then he bowed, a gesture of deep respect in Karathi culture. "I have fought for 60 years. I have won countless battles. But today I learned I knew nothing about true combat. Your hands have no blades, human, but they are more dangerous than any weapon I have ever faced." The medical team rushed onto the arena floor, checking both fighters. Jinho waved them off, insisting he was fine. Drakesh allowed them to examine his arm and tail, though he kept his eyes on Jinho the whole time. Commander Taiho and Ambassador Choi came down from the viewing platform. Taiho was grinning widely. Choi looked composed, but there was relief in her eyes. "Well done, Lieutenant," Choi said quietly. "You've just changed humanity's position in this council." Jinho looked up at the viewing platforms. Hundreds of alien faces stared down at him, some with respect, some with curiosity, a few with suspicion, but none with pity, none with contempt. The way they looked at him had changed. Velcros approached, moving slowly. His body language showed confusion and something else. Shame, maybe. "Lieutenant Park," he said, "I must apologize. I arranged this demonstration to prove humanity's weakness. Instead, you have proven something entirely different." "And what's that?" Jinho asked. "That we have all been thinking about combat wrong. We measure strength by the weapons we were born with. But you have shown us that the greatest weapon is the one between your ears, your mind, your training, your ability to adapt." He looked at his own clawed hands. "I have these claws because my ancestors needed them to survive. But they also made my ancestors predictable. They learned to rely on natural advantages instead of developing true skill." Counselor Thex joined them, his datapad still in hand. "This recording will be studied in every military academy in the Council. What you did here today, Lieutenant, was more than win a fight. You introduced a concept we've never properly explored. Fighting without natural weapons forces creativity. It demands technique. It requires understanding your opponent better than they understand themselves." He turned to Ambassador Choi. "The Council will want to discuss this further. Humanity's military knowledge may be more valuable than we initially understood. There will be questions, requests, opportunities." Drakesh stepped forward, his injured arm already starting to recover. "I would like to request something, if I may." "Of course," Ambassador Choi said. The Karathi warrior looked at Jinho. "I wish to learn what you know. For 60 years I thought my natural weapons made me a master of combat. Today you showed me they made me a novice. Will you teach me?" Jinho smiled. "I'd be honored." The council chamber was packed. Every seat filled and many species stood in the back, unwilling to miss this meeting. 3 days had passed since the arena demonstration. 3 days of non-stop analysis, debate, and quiet revolution in military thinking across dozens of species. Ambassador Minji Choi stood at the central podium, calm despite hundreds of alien eyes watching her. Beside her, Commander Taiho and Lieutenant Jinho waited in dress uniforms. Jinho still had bruises on his arms from the fight, visible reminders of what had happened. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Choi of Earth," the speaker announced. She was a tall being covered in silvery feathers, her species known for wisdom and careful judgment. Minji bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Madam Speaker. I come before the Council with a proposal. Humanity wishes to establish a military training exchange program. We will share our combat techniques with any species interested in learning. In return, we hope to learn from your advanced technologies and sciences." A murmur ran through the chamber. This was unprecedented. New species didn't offer military training to the Council. They learned from the Council. But after the demonstration, everything was different. Counselor Thex rose from his seat. "I support this proposal." What Lieutenant Park demonstrated was not luck or accident. It was the result of sophisticated combat knowledge developed over thousands of years, knowledge that could benefit every military force in the Council. Another counselor stood, this one from a species with 6 legs and crystal-like skin that refracted light. But how can we trust techniques from such a young species? Humans have been in space for mere decades. We have fought wars for millennia. Drakesh stepped forward. His presence drew attention immediately. Everyone knew he had lost to Jinho. For a warrior of his status to speak now took courage. "I am Master Drakesh of the Karathi. I have trained for 60 years. I have fought in 12 planetary conflicts. I have killed enemies from a dozen species." He paused, letting the weight of his experience sink in. "And 3 days ago, a human half my age defeated me in less than 3 minutes. Not through luck, not through superior weapons, through technique I had never encountered, through understanding of body mechanics that my people never developed because we relied on our natural weapons." He turned to face Jinho. "Lieutenant Park has begun teaching me his methods. In 3 days, I have learned more about combat efficiency than in the previous 60 years. Human techniques work with any body type. They don't require claws or venom or armor. They require only understanding and practice." Velcro stood next. The security chief looked different somehow. Less arrogant, more thoughtful. "I must also speak in support. I reviewed the arena footage extensively. Every move Lieutenant Park made was calculated. He turned Master Drakesh's natural weapons into disadvantages. The bone blades limited movement. The extra arms created more targets. The tail became a vulnerability instead of an asset. He looked at the assembled council. For generations, we have measured combat effectiveness by biological advantages. We augmented ourselves, gave ourselves more weapons, made ourselves more deadly. But we never questioned whether this approach had limitations. Humans evolved without natural weapons. They were forced to develop something we never needed. True martial skill. Yuna Han stepped up beside Minji, carrying her datapad. If I may speak, Madam Speaker, I'm Dr. Yuna Han, xenobiologist. I've analyzed the anatomical differences between humans and council species. Humans have remarkably flexible hands. 5 digits with an opposable thumb provide hundreds of possible grips and techniques. Our lack of natural weapons forced us to maximize this flexibility. She displayed holographic images in the air. More importantly, human combat systems evolved in parallel across multiple cultures. Asian martial arts, European fighting systems, African combat techniques, South American styles. Each culture developed methods independently, then shared and refined them over thousands of years. The result is a diverse body of knowledge about how bodies move, how joints work, where nerves cluster, knowledge that applies to any anatomy, not just human. The crystal-skinned counselor spoke again. But surely our species have our own fighting techniques. You do, Yuna agreed. But they're all based on using natural weapons. Your techniques assume you have claws or venom or crushing strength. Human techniques assume you have nothing. They work from a foundation of pure efficiency. That makes them universally applicable. Counselor Thex activated his own display. I've prepared a proposal. A joint training facility here on the station. Human instructors would teach basic principles to interested parties. In return, Earth gains full council membership immediately, rather than waiting for the standard probation period. Additionally, humanity receives access to council medical technology, space-time navigation systems, and energy generation methods. Several counselors began speaking at once. The speaker called for order, her feathers rustling. One at a time, please. Counselor Vex, you have the floor. A small blue-skinned being stood. I support the proposal. However, I want guarantees. If we share our technology, humanity must commit to training our military forces for at least 10 cycles. Agreed. Minji said immediately. We propose a 10-year commitment minimum, with options for extension. Human instructors will work with council species to adapt our techniques to different body types and abilities. The voting took less than an hour. When the speaker announced the results, Minji had to force herself to remain calm. The proposal passed with overwhelming support. Humanity was now a full member of the Galactic Council, and more than that, they were valued members, partners, not charity cases. After the formal session ended, the real work began. 12 species representatives approached Jinho directly, wanting to discuss training schedules. Drakesh stayed close, already acting as an informal assistant instructor. The Karathi warrior had thrown himself into learning human techniques with the same intensity he had once used for traditional combat. A tall, thin alien with 4 arms approached. Its skin was pale green and its eyes were large and curious. Lieutenant Park, I am Commander Revek of the Threxian Navy. I watched your demonstration with great interest. My species has natural weapons similar to Master Drakesh. I would very much like to learn how you defeated him. Of course, Jinho said, though I should clarify something. I didn't defeat Master Drakesh because I'm better than him. I defeated him because I trained in methods he'd never encountered. If he studies these methods for a few months, he'll be far more dangerous than I could ever be. He has natural advantages I don't. Revek tilted his head. You give credit to your opponent? Even after defeating him? That's part of human martial philosophy, Jinho explained. We respect our opponents. We learn from everyone we fight. Winning one battle doesn't make you superior. It just means you had an advantage that day. Tomorrow might be different. Drakesh made a rumbling sound that might have been approval. This is what I mean. Human combat philosophy is as important as their techniques. They don't fight to prove dominance. They fight to learn and improve. This mindset is foreign to most of us. Over the next several hours, Jinho found himself demonstrating basic techniques to increasingly large groups. He showed them how to use leverage instead of strength, how to find balance points, how to redirect force rather than resist it. Simple principles that worked for any body type. Velcros watched from a distance, taking notes. The security chief approached Commander Taiho, who stood observing the impromptu training session. "Commander," Velcro said, "I owe your people an apology. When you arrived, I saw only your limitations, your lack of natural weapons, your soft bodies. I failed to see your strength." Taiho smiled slightly. "Most people see our weaknesses first. We're used to it. The trick is showing them what we can do despite those weaknesses, or sometimes because of them." "Your lieutenant has shown us that," Velcros agreed. "I would like to request a transfer if possible to the new training facility. I want to learn these methods properly, and I want to help adapt them for station security. We can improve our protocol significantly with this knowledge." "That can probably be arranged," Taiho said. "Though you understand you'll be starting as a student, not an instructor?" "I understand. I have commanded security forces for 20 years. But yesterday I watched a human with no armor defeat one of the galaxy's finest warriors using only his hands and mind. If that means starting over as a student, so be it. Pride is worth less than knowledge." Later that evening, the human delegation gathered in their quarters. Exhaustion showed on every face, but satisfaction too. They had done what seemed impossible. They had proven humanity's worth to a galactic civilization. Ambassador Choi raised a glass. "To Lieutenant Jinho Park, who won a fight and changed a galaxy." Jinho shook his head. "With respect, Ambassador, I didn't change anything. I just showed them something they'd never seen before. The change came from them being willing to look past their assumptions. That's harder than any fight." "Spoken like a true martial artist," Commander Taiho said. "Humble in victory." "I'm not being humble, sir. I'm being honest. Drakesh could have killed me a dozen times if he'd known what to do. I won because he didn't understand the techniques. But he's learning fast.